This might sound crazy, but the Tesla Model 3 has officially been out for 10 model years, 2017 all the way up through 2026. And within this time frame, Tesla has changed and altered the Model 3 constantly. There have been minor updates and major updates. But now, if you're buying a used Tesla Model 3, this might be overwhelming because basically every single model year Tesla Model 3 has differences. But in today's video, we are going to break down every single model year of the Tesla Model 3 and provide you enough information to go ahead and make a used decision. Welcome to the ultimate Tesla Model 3 buying guide. If you're new to the channel, my name is Andrew Lambrecht. I'm a project engineer here at Ever, and I'm also a contributor at Inside EVs and Business Insider covering electric vehicles. Today's video is going to focus solely on the Tesla Model 3. But if you're curious about the Tesla Model Y, we've already done a full model year breakdown of that vehicle linked right above. I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time because I've actually purchased two used Tesla Model 3s, and finding the perfect one is always difficult because there are so many differences between the model years, and there's even differences within the model years. So I hope this video will provide you enough information to make an informed decision on the used market. Let's dive in. To kick off this overview, we're going to discuss each model year of the Tesla Model 3 and then show you inside its generation. And in my opinion, there are three generations of the Tesla Model 3. The first is Generation 1, and this is 2017 through the 2020 model year, and you can really tell these apart by the chrome surrounding the windows. Next, you get Generation 1.5, and these Model 3s were built from 2021 through 2023. These are basically upgraded versions of the original Model 3, featuring mainly minor tweaks and additions. Finally, we have the Generation 2 Model 3, and this is also referred to as the Highland Model 3. This Model 3 has the most significant upgrades over the outgoing model years, and this encompasses any Model 3 built 2024 or later. But before we get all the way up to the Gen 2 Model 3, let's talk about the original 2017. The 2017 Model 3 is one of the rarest Model 3 configurations, just any 2017 in general, because Tesla only sold 1,500 of these. The original Model 3 came as a long-range rear-wheel drive configuration with a 75 kilowatt-hour battery pack and an EPA range of 310 miles. This was a nice Model 3 because you got all the premium features. So you got premium sound and you got the heated front and rear seats. So all of these came with the premium interior. Now, what's really funny about this Model 3 is this is the only model year of the Model 3 with micro suede headliners. So you only really get this feature on the Model S and X and also Cybertruck, but the 2017 Model 3 had a micro suede headliner. As for computers and autopilot, we get MCU2, which uses the Intel Atom chip, and we also get hardware 2.5 for autopilot. Now, one really fun fact about the 2017 Model 3 is that it has a special UV coating on the glass roof that will turn orange when it's wet and hits the sun. The 2018 model year of the Tesla Model 3 gets a lot more exciting, but we also lose some features, but we'll get to that in a second. As for the excitement, we now get three new trim levels. We get the mid-range, which is locked to an EPA range of 264 miles, and we also get the long-range all-wheel drive and the long-range all-wheel drive performance. The performance is by far the most intriguing version because we get a carbon fiber spoiler, 20-inch alloy wheels, red brake calipers, and aluminum pedals. It can also accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds. Tesla also began introducing the white interior option. So now you can get black or white seats, no other colors. And for the Model 3, there have actually never been any other colors, either stark white or black. That's it. As for feature removal, we actually no longer get the Alcantara-esque headliner. So from here on out, from 2018 onwards, we just get a regular cloth headliner. We also eliminate two colors. So now no longer can you get the silver metallic or the obsidian black metallic. And those two colors were removed in the later portion of 2018. So you're able to find some 2018 Model 3s still featuring those older legacy colors. Other than that, the car looks exactly the same and we still get hardware 2.5. If you thought things were pretty smooth sailing from 2019 onwards, you would be dead wrong, because 2019 is the most convoluted and complex model year of the Tesla Model 3. That's because Tesla introduced trims, removed trims, and did a lot of slicing and dicing to the lineup. But I will take you on a month-by-month basis to tell you everything you need to know about the 2019 model year. So in around February of 2019, Tesla introduced two new trim levels. We got the standard range, which was supposed to have cloth seats and start at $35,000, and then the standard range plus, which was priced a few $1,000s more, and that one got the partial premium interior, so it was basically a decontented premium interior. So there were some software limitations to the speakers, and you don't get some features like the heated rear seats. This is supposed to be the more entry-level version of the Model 3 to get the price down. So at about this time, we had in the lineup the standard range plus, the mid-range, the long-range rear-wheel drive, the long-range all-wheel drive, and the long-range performance. And also at around this time, Tesla removed that roof that turned orange in the rain. So that's not really that relevant. I just think it's kind of a cool feature. Anyways, in March, Tesla said, hey, we're gonna get rid of the mid-range. So the lineup is a little more simplified. And then later in April, Tesla also eliminated the long-range rear-wheel drive. So now we're down to the standard range plus, long-range all-wheel drive, and long-range performance. Simultaneously, Tesla began delivering Model 3s with Hardware 3, and Autopilot became standard. So previously you had to pay $3,000 to get Autopilot, and if you're unfamiliar with that, Autopilot does lane centering and adaptive cruise control to make your highway drives and even drives just on roads with lanes much more relaxing. But now that feature became standard in April 2019. At also roughly the same time, Tesla began backtracking its plans for the $35,000 Tesla Model 3 Standard. Now, the Tesla Model 3 Standard shouldn't be confused with the Tesla Model 3 Standard Plus, because the actual standard Model 3 was going to have a lot of revisions and minimizations. So we would only get cloth seats in that car, and we wouldn't even get stuff like a center console. The speakers would be limited to 6 as opposed to around 8 in the standard range plus. So there would be a lot of reduced features in the standard. But then Tesla still wanted to deliver this $35,000 Model 3. So in the summer of 2019, Tesla quietly introduced an off-menu available Tesla Model 3 standard range. So there's been a lot of people who said, oh, the Tesla Model 3 standard never existed. Well, actually it did. It just didn't exist in the way we thought it would. You had to order a standard range plus, then basically call Tesla and say that you wanted it to be decontented to a Model 3 standard, and it was available for $35,000 for a very brief period, and then its price was increased to $35,400. And then later in the summer, it was totally axed. So the Model 3 standard range is perhaps the rarest variant of the Tesla Model 3. It had an EPA range of 220 miles, and it could accelerate from 0 to 60 in around 5.6 seconds. And then in September of 2019, Tesla removed the leather steering wheel. So it went from leather to now vegan leather. So that's the 2019 model year of the Tesla Model 3. In my opinion, it was the most complex and convoluted model year. There's a lot going on, lots of changes, revisions, etc. But the good thing to know, and I think the most important thing about the 2019 model year, is that if you maybe say can't get a lot of photos of the car, like you can't see the center screen, don't know about its autopilot situation or whatever, it's good to find one built after April 2019, because then at least you'll be guaranteed with Hardware 3 and autopilot. If and only if it's not a Model 3 standard range, but the good thing is they're really hard to find anyways, so you're probably not going to stumble into that situation. Comparatively, the 2020 model year Model 3 had some pretty minor changes. So we get the same basic trim levels like we got in late 2019, so the Standard Range Plus, long range all-wheel drive, and long range performance. There were some slight revisions to the EPA numbers, like the Standard Range Plus can now go 250 miles as opposed to 240, and the long range all-wheel drive got changed from 310 to 322. Pretty insignificant, and I would assume this is mainly just due to testing cycle differences. 2020 Model 3s built after June of 2020 get 2 wireless charging pads up front, and the USB-A ports are traded out for USB-C ports. And some really late 2020 model years get Bluetooth TPMS sensors. Pretty insignificant changes as we are now ramping up for the 2021 model year. Around back, we get our charging port. The long range versions can charge at up to 250 kilowatts, while the Standard Range Plus is capped at 170 kilowatts. Now, this doesn't result in really longer charging times on the Standard Range Plus because the battery pack is smaller. So we have a smaller battery pack and a lower peak charging rate as opposed to a larger battery pack with a higher peak charging rate. The other thing to know about the pre-refresh and just any 2017 to 2020 Tesla Model 3 is that the trunk is not power operated. So this is a manual trunk, just something to be aware of. The back seats of the original Tesla Model 3 are still pretty nice. Now, one thing to note is that all Model 3s come with heated seat mechanisms for each of the 3 seating positions back here. But if you get a Standard Range Plus, you will have to pay $300 through the Tesla app to unlock that amenity. Otherwise, we get gloss black accents around the door popping mechanism button, and we also get a center armrest with 2 cup holders, 2 AC vents, and 2 USB-A ports. Some of the later 2020 models might actually have USB-C ports, but the vast majority of original Model 3s, like this one right here, will only have USB-A ports. And as always, the massive panoramic glass roof is standard. Up front, we get the old interior design, so we just have a single piece of wood, or if you have the white interior, a white strip across the front dashboard. We also get the original center console design, so it's made out of gloss black plastic, and it does get fingerprints and can scratch pretty easily, so you might find a lot of these used with a wrap already on it. But I think if it is clean and kept in good condition, it looks really nice. And to open it, it's a little interesting. It uses magnets. One thing to note is that when you are closing the center console, you have to be pretty gentle with it, or else the infotainment screen will yell at you. It says, please close it softly, so you gotta close it softly. Now, if you really want a wireless charger, you gotta find a June or later 2020 model year to have the wireless charging pad located right up there. But if you do want a wireless charger and your Model 3 doesn't have one, you can actually find a lot of them on Amazon.com, and then you can just put it in there if you really want your phone to be wirelessly charged. Both of the front seats are power operated and heated, so it's not like the back seats where you need the long range version to get the heated mechanism. Any Model 3 you find will have heated seats, including the elusive Standard Range. In terms of audio, the Standard Range Plus has a 7-speaker sound system, which I still think is pretty decent. But if you really want a good audio experience, you got to look for at least a mid or a long range, and then you will get a 15-speaker sound system with a subwoofer, and in my opinion, it has a really, really nice audio experience. And finally, all original Model 3s will have the Intel Atom chip, and the screen is still pretty responsive, not as responsive as the newer ones with the AMD Ryzen chip, but I still think you will be impressed with the responsiveness of the infotainment. And I guess on that note, it's important to mention that all these cars will have access to the Tesla app, and you can always pay $10 a month to have premium connectivity, where you can, say, for instance, view your cameras in real time through Sentry mode and get access to the internet browser and Netflix and stuff like that on the go, so you won't need to use Wi-Fi to have those features. The 2021 Tesla Model 3 brings the most updates yet. The most notable are some visual exterior changes. So now we get a factory chrome delete. We no longer have the shiny trim around the windows. It's now matte black. We also get updated wheels across the board. So the 18-inch Aero wheels, like this one right here, gets updated to look a little bit cleaner. So do the 19-inch stilettos, and the performance wheels become the Uber turbine wheels, and they have a much different look than the outgoing model year. We also now get a heat pump as standard. So if you live in a cold environment, it might make sense to opt for the 2021 or newer, because now Tesla ditches the resistive heater and implements a heat pump. Other changes include a power-operated trunk, an updated center console design, and dual-pane front windows. So now the NVH is a little bit better. It's a little quieter on the highway because the glass is now made up of 2 layers, and you can even hear it. Sounds a lot more solid. But now, since this is Tesla we are talking about, not every 2021 Tesla Model 3 is the same. And some of them might actually have pretty big differences in the battery pack capacities, despite being the exact same trim of the exact same year. Case in point is the 2021 Tesla Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive. Very early examples will feature a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack that has an EPA range of 353. And by the way, a lot of these EPA ranges of the older Tesla Model 3s tend to be pretty liberal. You really won't get that in real world driving. But anyways, really early 2021 Tesla Model 3s, usually built in November of 2020, will have a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. But then in December, Tesla implemented an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack that has an EPA range of 358 miles. In real world, that difference is actually a lot greater, but according to the EPA, it's 353 versus 358. And that's actually pretty helpful, because if you can find the original window sticker of a 2021 Model 3, you can easily verify which battery pack it has. Finally, Tesla made 4 changes within the 2021 model year, the first of which was in April of 2021. And this is when Tesla implemented new front door cards. So now you will get some of that wood or white trim in the front door panels of the car. It gives the car a little bit more of a premium look. Then in May of 2021, Tesla actually removed the front radar feature. So now autopilot and FSD is done only on camera. In June 2021, Tesla eliminated the passenger lumbar feature, so models built after then only have 6-way power adjustable passenger seats. Another change for the 2022 model year is the introduction of the Matrix LED headlights. Now, this is pretty easy to tell the difference, so if you look at the Gen 1 headlights, you can see that there are actual reflectors in there, but the new ones have a full projector module. The projectors are made out of individual pixels, so they can turn off to avoid blinding oncoming drivers. Last but certainly not least is the low voltage battery pack. So in late 2021, Tesla eliminated the lead acid battery and instead replaced it with a 16-volt lithium-ion battery. And these low voltage lithium-ion batteries are expected to last pretty much the life of the vehicle. And this was only in the really late portion of 2021, so it's fair to expect most 2021s will just have the lead acid battery. The 2022 model year gets really exciting, because now as standard we get the low voltage lithium ion battery pack. So all of these models will have that, and they will also come with the latest and greatest AMD Ryzen chip. Tesla still uses this even in the 2026 model year. So at least for now, you will be guaranteed with the latest Tesla computer. The other really big upgrade with the 2022 model year is that the Standard Range Plus was axed in favor for the Tesla Model 3 rear wheel drive. This one uses a different battery pack. It uses an LFP battery, that's lithium iron phosphate, as opposed to NCA, nickel cobalt aluminum, or NMC, nickel manganese cobalt. These are the 2 other battery chemistries Tesla has used. LFP batteries are particularly good for 2 main reasons. Well, I guess there is one not so great thing, and that is that they are less energy dense. So if you compare the weight of a Model 3 rear wheel drive as opposed to a Standard Range Plus, it will be several hundred pounds more. But since the battery capacity is larger, we do get more range. So you get 272 miles as opposed to 253 in the standard range plus. And from what I've seen, the Model 3 LFP can actually get closer to its EPA range in real world driving as opposed to the outgoing standard range plus. But the two really good things about this battery pack is that LFP cells are just more durable. So these batteries actually have really respectable state of health over longer periods of time with more miles. Now, obviously these cars are still relatively newer. We're only looking at about 3 to 4 model years at this point, but the data so far is really promising. The second thing is that your charging habits will be different with an LFP battery pack. I'd say about once a week, you will actually need to charge to 100%, so the BMS, the battery management system, will know what state of charge the battery pack is at. The voltage curve is different within this battery, and we honestly don't really need to go there, but you will need to charge to 100%, I'd say at least once a week, so the car will know what state of charge it's at. Now, this doesn't mean to charge it at 100% and leave it there. It just means, hey, maybe on Wednesday, you're gonna charge up, so Thursday morning, you will start driving with 100% battery. We are gonna be working on a video talking about the different battery chemistries and charging habits, so stay tuned for that. The final change for the 2022 model year is the most controversial, and this is the removal of the ultrasonic sensors. So as you can see down here, we have little circles housing the front and rear, if you're looking at the rear bumper, ultrasonic sensors, and these just help give you a really precise measurement for how far the vehicle is away from different objects, especially when you're parking. Model 3s built after October 2022 will rely on Tesla Vision, and that means you'll just use the cameras on the front and sides and rear of the car to help you out when you're parking. People were really upset with this feature when it came out because it frankly wasn't as good as the ultrasonic sensors. Using a camera up there is definitely not as good as having sensors right down there to see where you are parked. I think this feature has gotten a lot better over time, but it is still something to consider. And if you do want that peace of mind of having these sensors low in the car to help you out when you're parking, it's good to find one that was built before October 2022. The last model year of the Gen 1.5 Tesla Model 3 is the 2023 model year. And there's actually really few changes between 2022 and 2023. This is because Tesla was prepping for the 2024 refresh and therefore didn't really make any changes to the 2023 model year. Some people report slightly improved suspension and some stuff like that, but there's not a lot of confirmation on what actually changed from 2022 to 2023. If you're looking on the used market and you find a 2023 as opposed to a 2022, I probably wouldn't pay that much more extra for the 2023, besides the fact that you will just get more warranty period. So if that's something you really care about, then it might be worth it to spend maybe $1,000 or $2,000 more for a 2023. But I think the big thing you should know is that there really weren't any changes. Around back, we get the same charge port located back there. Once again, long range models can charge on DC at up to 250, and rear wheel drive models will charge at up to 170 kilowatts. Once again, long range is 48 amps, and rear wheel drive is 32 amps for AC charging. The really nice thing about the back here is that the tailgate is power operated, so this makes loading in stuff a lot more easy. But there is a slight flaw, and that is, there is only one strut that is powered, and that is on the left side. And you might be thinking that would be fine, right? You don't need both arms to lift up the trunk. Well, actually, there is a slight issue. So whenever we close this trunk, we can look right here. This particular Model 3 looks pretty good, but on some like ex-Uber Tesla Model 3s where the trunk is opening like 24/7, this area will actually start to lift up and look kind of not so great. Tesla will actually fix this under warranty, but it has to be covered under the 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty. So just something to be aware of. But since we are on the topic of the rear trunk, there is one cool thing to point out. When you open the trunk, you will see that there is some weather stripping located right here. And on old Tesla Model 3s, particularly the Gen 1s, there was a flaw, and whenever it was raining out, the rain would just slide right into the trunk because there was really nowhere that it would be caught at. Now what's cool is on the 2021 and newer, we get updated weather stripping material with little holes in it. So now if there is rain, it will go into these holes and then drain into this kind of side area and not actually get into the trunk. So if you live in a wet environment and you will be opening your trunk a lot in the rain and don't want everything to get wet in there, this is one cool thing to know about the 2021. Now we are in the interior of the updated Gen 1.5 Tesla Model 3. There's nothing really too much different, at least in terms of what you see on the interiors. It's important to note that Tesla actually made some like cushioning adjustments, but this was like way back in 2018, 2019. So at least in terms of the seating position compared to that 2020, this example right here is a 2022, it feels very similar. We get the exact same center armrest with 2 cup holders, our 2 AC vents. All 3 of these seats are heated. Once again, if you get a rear-wheel drive model, you will need to pay about $300 extra through the Tesla app to unlock them, but all the long-range and performance versions will come with those heated seats as standard. The big change is that we do get 2 USB-C ports back here, so no more USB-A, and now Tesla is going all in on USB-C. Up front, the standout feature in the 2021 to 2023 model year of the Tesla Model 3 is the updated center console. So now we have this matte finish and it feels a lot more premium than the outgoing one. We still get 2 cup holders. There are 2 USB-C ports. Located right above, we get 2 wireless phone chargers, and sadly, because your phone is probably in a case, which is more of like an insulating material, and these wireless phone chargers are wrapped in micro suede, which is also an insulating material, these just tend to get really, really hot, and your phone will probably give you a notification that it's too hot to continue charging. So I like to call these mobile phone heaters. Other standout features include a heated steering wheel. Now, not all 2021s have these, but most do. So just look for 2021s that were actually built in 2021, and then they will most likely have a heated steering wheel. The other thing to look out for are the updated door cards. So Model 3s built after April of 2021 will have these nicer looking door cards with some of that aluminum and wood trim kind of going into the side of the vehicle. Just makes it look a little more premium. Finally, all these models will use hardware 3, so the 2023s don't get hardware 4 or anything like that, like we saw in the Tesla Model S and X and even the Model Y. So you will be locked to hardware 3, but if you want to be guaranteed the AMD Ryzen chip, I would look for a 2022 model year, and then you get the buttery smooth infotainment display, and the AMD Ryzen chip has more functionality than the Intel Atom chip because now we have access to Grok and better 3D visualizations. If you want your Model 3 to be future-proofed, or at least future-proofed for the near future, I would try to look for a 2022 or later. That way you'll also get the updated low voltage architecture using a 16-volt lithium-ion battery. Now we got the 2024 model year of the Tesla Model 3. This is the long-awaited Highland update, and there are many new changes with this car. Most notably, we get a new front fascia, a new rear fascia, updated taillights, updated headlights. We also get an improved drag coefficient, all new wheel designs, and the addition of some new colors like Stealth Gray, that became the new free color option, replacing Midnight Silver Metallic, Ultra Red, which now replaces the red multi-coat, and Quicksilver became a color option in August of 2024. We get a new steering wheel, new front seats. Now we also get heated and ventilated seats as standard, new rear seats, a rear center display, hardware 4, and many more amenities I will show when we go to the interior portion. The 2024 Model 3 is undoubtedly the biggest upgrade to the Model 3, and a lot of this stuff isn't even cosmetic. There's a lot of powertrain related changes that we saw with this model year, including a new performance trim that is quicker than any Model 3 has ever been, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. But I'd say the most prominent update with the 2024 Model 3 is just the improvement in the ride quality. So now we get acoustic glass around the entire cabin. The front and now rear windows are dual paned, and the dampers have been significantly improved. The older Model 3 is very sporty. We have very stiff suspension, but you do get a lot of road feedback in the interior, and that can be uncomfortable for passengers. But in the 2024 Model 3, the dampers are really improved and the ride quality is just significantly better. So the handling, I'd say, is still really good, but now the comfort is really there. I'd say this car feels a lot more refined, and it feels like something you would get from an established automaker. The big thing you should care about with the 2024 model year is that in July of 2024, Tesla implemented a new trim. It's the long-range rear-wheel drive, which, if you remember from earlier, was canned in 2019. So now this is Tesla's longest range Model 3, and it has an EPA range rating of 363 miles. And unlike a lot of the outgoing Model 3s, this car can actually get that range in real-world driving. And out of Spec Studio's 70-mile-per-hour range test, they got 384 miles at 70 miles per hour, which is truly incredible. So if you are driving long distances on the highway and you want a really good road tripper, I'd recommend looking for a Tesla Model 3 2024 long-range rear-wheel drive. The long-range rear-wheel drive also has a 0 to 60 time of 4.9 seconds, which is really quick, and this is now the first Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive that can accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. The other change was in October of 2024, and this is the removal of the rear-wheel drive with the LFP battery pack. So after October 2024, you can no longer get the Model 3 in the United States with an LFP battery pack. And on that note, this video is only referring to US-built Tesla Model 3s, as Model 3s built in Giga Shanghai or Giga Berlin can differ. The 2025 model year of the Tesla Model 3 remained relatively unchanged, so we still had the long-range rear-wheel drive, long-range all-wheel drive, and of course the performance. But what is interesting about the 2025 model year is that in April, we get diamond black metallics. So now we get a metallic black paint color after Tesla removed it in October of 2018. So it's actually been pretty well anticipated to get a new color besides solid black. Since the 2025 model year was pretty quiet in terms of changes and additions, of course the 2026 would have to have a lot of alterations, and it did. So now Tesla totally changed up the whole trim naming convention. So now we get the premium or the standard. And this is a totally different, at least in terms of the interior, Tesla Model 3. The big changes are now you get cloth seats as standard. So they have leatherette outsides and the insides are cloth. They are heated up front, and we don't get other features like the heated rear seats or the rear passenger display. We also don't get auto dimming side view mirrors, and the driver and passenger seats can only be adjusted through the center display. It uses a 69.5 kilowatt hour battery pack that's good for an EPA range of 321 miles. AC charging is capped at 32 amps, and then DC charging goes up to 225 kilowatts. So it is a notable improvement over the older standard range rear-wheel drive versions that capped out at 170 kilowatts. The standard also is notable because this is the first Tesla Model 3 after mid-2019 that does not come with autopilot as standard. So now you only get adaptive cruise control, no auto steer. So if you are someone who wants auto steer, you don't get that. You only get adaptive cruise control. Of course, you can pay $8,000 or $100 a month to upgrade to FSD. Other than that, the premium trims are the same, and the premiums include the long-range rear-wheel drive, the long-range all-wheel drive, and of course the performance, except these ones have a new addition, which is a front-mounted bumper camera. Around back, we don't get a Tesla logo anymore. We just get Tesla written across the back. And we also get a power-operated rear trunk with two power struts. So now we get an equal amount of lifting force between both the left and right side, so that issue with the outgoing model year hopefully should not arise. The one cool thing about the 2024 and newer Tesla Model 3 is that the materials just constantly got better. So now this trunk liner material is made out of carpeting, which is a lot better for sound deadening than the outgoing model years, which all had a plastic line. So this is merely one change that makes the 2024 model year a lot quieter than the outgoing versions. All right, we are now in the back seats of this specific one is a 2025 model year, but the 2024 and newer model years all have updated seating materials. So I think these feel a little bit softer than the outgoing ones, and the two outboard seats are heated, so no longer do we have a middle heated rear seat in the Tesla Model 3, but the outboard ones are perforated. They're not ventilated back here, but they are perforated, and they just feel a lot more premium. We also get an improved center armrest with two cup holders, and now we get some aluminum accents, which make this feel a little bit nicer. And we get an 8-inch rear display where we can control our climate controls. We can turn on the heated rear seats. So in the outgoing Model 3s, you had to nicely ask the driver or passenger to turn on your heated seats, but now you can just do it through the screen. You can also connect to audio through Bluetooth. You can play video games and even watch Netflix or YouTube from the back seats. Pretty cool. Once again, we get two AC vents, but now these are no longer manual vents. You control the airflow through the screen like you do for the front seats. We also get two USB-C ports, and as you can tell, we get ambient lighting in the door panels. Now, there is this textile material in this door panel, and this signifies that this is a rear-wheel drive version. So the rear-wheel drive versions come with this kind of like fabricy material in the door panels, but if you get a long range all-wheel drive or a performance, then you get a micro suede material in the door panel. Other than that, you can really feel that the materials have significantly improved in the 2024 Highland, because the entire door panel is now made up of soft touch materials, and even the inside of the door cards are felt lined. So if you have something sitting in there and it's rolling around, you will not hear it as much as you would in the outgoing ones, which were basically just plastic. The materials don't stop in the door panel though. In fact, the whole lower portion of this door sill is now all carpeting, and we have lots of soft touch materials spanning all the way down this B-pillar. The back seats of the 2024 Model 3 feel a lot more premium. Up front, you will see that there are a lot of changes with the 2024 and newer Tesla Model 3. The most notable of which is this ambient light bar. Now, this is available on all 2024, 2025, and non-standard 2026 model years, and it just gives the car a really cool vibe. You can also sync it with your music, so it will pulse in and out to reflect the music you are listening to. These seats are also massively improved. The bolstering is better, and they are heated, power operated, and now ventilated. Once again, you don't get that on the 2026 standard Model 3, but all other Highland Model 3s will come with seat ventilation. The Model 3 Performance will come with updated performance seats, which have even more bolstering and look really cool, but if you get a non-performance, they'll all just have these same seats. Other changes include a new center console design. We get two cup holders, but for some reason we only get one USB-C port now, so that's a little disappointing, but we do have your two wireless charging pads located right up front. The dashboard gets a new design, so now we have this cloth material located on top of the dashboard, and it just looks a little more clean, a little more elegant. The steering wheel also has the same look, so it is heated as standard, and looks a lot more minimalist. So one complaint with this new steering wheel is that the blinkers are actually located on the steering wheel as buttons. However, if you get a 2026 model year, Tesla put the blinker stock back. So if you do want a blinker stock for whatever reason, then you will look for a 2026 or newer Highland. The center console gets some changes too. It looks a little bit more clean. We get our two wireless phone chargers located right up there, two cup holders, but for some reason we only get one USB-C port. So the old one had two USB-C ports, and now we are down to one. In terms of tech, all of these cars will have the AMD Ryzen chip, hardware for, but only 2026 model years will get the front bumper cam. Now, one random but cool thing is that the door closure mechanisms have actually been upgraded. So now we get two closures, one on the side and now one on the bottom. And paired with the new door cards and the dual pane glass, we get a really solid door thud. And another thing is that if you lower the window all the way down, the window will disappear because it will be inside the door. But then if you open the door, it will actually pop up like an inch or two. And why Tesla does this now is because now if you close the door, you won't really get that rattle. So in older Teslas, if the window was totally down, and you actually get this in pretty much most cars with frameless windows, is that if the window is totally down, when you close the door, it will kind of rattle. So now Tesla has thought of this. So now if you open up the door, it will pop up a little bit to give you a solid thud even when the window is down. Now, my last thing to talk about is the audio. So if you get a rear wheel drive 2024 or newer Tesla Model 3, you get a 9-speaker sound system. And I think this is a pretty good improvement over the outgoing 7-speaker one, which I just sound tested. And then if you get an all-wheel drive or performance version, you will get a 17-speaker sound system featuring 2 subwoofers. And as an audio enthusiast, I gotta say, the 17-speaker sound system is truly top-notch. So if you are an audiophile, really recommend finding an all-wheel drive or performance 2024 or newer. This is weird. I feel like I'm summoning Franz von Holzhausen. Anyways, what we need to talk about next is warranties. And here's everything you should know. All Model 3s come with a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic warranty. If you get a rear-wheel drive version, then you get an 8-year or 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. And this encompasses the battery pack and the drive units. If you get an all-wheel drive version or a performance version, then you get 8 years or 120,000 miles. As for the overall reliability of the Model 3, they are generally very reliable cars. The things you should look out for are, of course, the battery health. How was the battery treated before you are buying it used? Did the person who previously owned the car just charge it up to 100% and let it sit for a month? Obviously, in that case, the battery will be degraded more than a battery that was kept within the 20-80% range most of the time. And then some of the other things to look out for are the control arms. So drive the Tesla Model 3. If it's making squeaking or creaking noises from the front of the vehicle, it's probably the control arms. Both of the Tesla Model 3s I owned had the control arms go out. My 2019 had them go out at 90,000 miles, and Tesla actually replaced them for free out of goodwill, which was really nice. But my 2021 Model 3 had them go bad just after 50,000 miles, so unfortunately I could not use the basic warranty to have them repaired for free, and it cost about $250 out of pocket. The control arms are a known issue with the Tesla Model 3. It's not a major issue, and it probably won't cost anything more than $250, and I probably could have gotten it done cheaper at a third-party repair shop, but it is something to be aware of. So if you do hear creaking, check it out. It's most likely the control arms. Other issues include a smelly air conditioner, and this is because the cabin air filters have a proclivity to absorb moisture and then spread that moisture throughout the cabin, and of course over time they will just start to smell. So if you live in a humid environment and your Model 3 has a smelly cabin, replace the air filters. One other thing is just the build quality of the Model 3, especially with the older Model 3s. There can be pretty big disparities between the build quality of two Model 3s even in the same model year. So if you are looking on the used market, just make sure to check it out in person to make sure everything looks solid. Finally, in terms of tire recommendations, I recently just bought a pair of Radar D-Maxes, I think that's how it's pronounced, for my Model 3, and those tires have been really good, and they are more on the affordable side. This isn't a promotion or anything like that. This is just me saying I bought these tires. I've also bought Pirellis for my old Model 3, which were good. I wasn't blown away with them or anything, but I do think the Radar D-Maxes are a great blend of grip for the price because they aren't that expensive. I think I bought mine for around $130 a tire. And that's our Tesla Model 3 comparison. And now I think we need a verdict. Which Model 3 should you get if you are looking at buying a used one? Well, I broke this down into 3 categories. The first one is the best price. I want an affordable Model 3, what do I get? The second category is best value. Which Model 3 delivers the best value for the money? And then the third one is, what is the nicest Model 3 I can get? For the first category, I recommend finding a 2019 Model 3 built after April. This means you will get autopilot as standard, because if you find a 2018 or earlier 2019, you might be stuck with one that doesn't have autopilot. Of course, you can confirm on the infotainment display, but if you want to be guaranteed autopilot, I'd recommend finding an April 2019 build or later. You will likely be able to find one of these for under $20,000. Next up is the 2022 Tesla Model 3 with the LFP battery pack. You can find a lot of these for under $25,000. And with this one, you get the LFP battery pack, which is durable and has really solid real-world range. You also get the low voltage 16-volt lithium-ion battery pack and the AMD Ryzen chip. I truly think the 2022 Tesla Model 3 with the LFP battery pack will be future-proofed for a while to come. But if you want the best Tesla Model 3, I recommend finding a 2024 or later long range. I'd really spring for the long range all-wheel drive, or perhaps the performance. The performances are still pretty expensive, but you can find nice long range all-wheel drives for $35,000. With the long range all-wheel drive, you will get around 350 miles of real-world range, paired with a 17-speaker sound system, hardware for, of course, the AMD Ryzen chip, the updated build quality, and the ventilated seats. After having driven pretty much all the model years and configurations of Tesla Model 3s, I gotta say the 2024 is a really huge improvement over an already good driving electric car. So if you want the best, you gotta get the 2024 or newer. If you enjoyed today's video, please invite all your friends over to your house to watch Fight Club. But instead of putting on Fight Club, just put on Evercar's official YouTube channel. Or you can just press the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.